What's up, everybody? I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and welcome to another video lesson on the right mindset. All right, so today I'm going to go over more advice from literary agents for authors, specifically in the fantasy genre. I guess fantasy writers. For those wondering, this is indeed part 6. We're getting closer to the last part of advice from literary agents. Will be the next video. Then we will be in chaos. What will I talk about? Well, we'll have to find out. But for now, let's see what the 3 points of advice from literary agents for fiction authors is. And by doing that, it's time to develop the right mindset. Let's do it. What's up? All right, so today's lesson is going to be advice from literary agents. Okay. By the way, if you're new here or you've been here for quite some time, you're a beginner writer or someone who's been deep into their career, they're advanced writers, but you want to learn a little bit more about the craft, maybe some insight to the industry, and listen to other authors like yourself in their journey, their process, then please, thank you, hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. Let's get right into it. Their name is on the building. All right. The advice given by the agent is, quote unquote, down to dress a submission to Mr. Curtis Brown. He died some time ago. When researching who to submit to, you should have discovered that through your research. Okay. This is true. We get excited sometimes as authors, especially new authors that don't understand the process or the industry. These people, these publishing companies or these agents, they represent these kind of books. I'm just going to just send it and we'll play a numbers game. And if I send out 100 subscriptions, 100 proposals and inquiry letters, I'm bound to at least get one back. But the truth is, you want to have a focused agenda. You want to be able to isolate your opportunities into educated decisions. And we do this through my favorite thing in the world, which is a mantra that I live by, which is research. It's important to your career. The reason it's research is because whatever we learn is known, but what we research and develop an understanding for allows us to be able to utilize that knowledge. So remember, knowing is not the same as understanding. Understanding is something that you put some practical effort into and deep dives. We research to learn the information. We research to comprehend that information, or more importantly, look at other perspectives to that information. And we research that to see how we can implement it into our lives and simulate it. Okay. Your competence is represented by what and how you do things. The goal isn't to get signed. That's the reward for doing your job. Your goal should be to put the same care and interest in others that you do yourself. It's not about your book when you're trying to get involved with others. In reality, you have to care about others to get others to care about you. And when you first allow those initial interactions to lack preparation or hastiness, it will say more about you through your actions than the words you put into that email. For example, you don't make friends with people because they are a means to an end. When we use people, it reflects back on our reputation. And yes, trying to get an agent to represent you for you so you can make it big is selfish and filled with negative intent. So what do we got to do? You're going to want to find an agent. I get it. And well, you should. But there are different ways to do so. One of those ways is by being sincere in your interest of them. How can you add to the relationship? What do you bring to the table of that relationship? This value is beyond your book, as I'm assuming you want to publish more than one book. So you can't rely on that book, that single book, to be the selling point. It's your stay of execution, but not the value. Do your research and understand how, who, what, and why this particular agent is going to be a good fitting relationship for you. It's not a numbers game, it's a people's game of value. To sum all that up is, of course, you want to get signed. Of course, you want to write for a living. How many times has somebody come up to you and before you've developed a relationship with them, they give you a big ask. Hey, don't you know so and so? Can you introduce me to them? Or, hey, I saw you just got a job working at blank, blank, blank. I was wondering if you could help me get a job in there. And you don't know this person. They're just somebody that is in this situation would be a stranger. They would just be somebody that saw that you got that job. They call you up and say, hey, I was wondering if you could hook me up and get me an interview. So turn it around a little bit. The agent is you in that situation, and you are the stranger. Now imagine you approach the agent, understanding what it is they want and desire, and you give them a little insight to your book because, yes, you got to use your book to get in. That's the stay of execution. The book gets you into the door. All right. Then once you're able to get into those conversations, that's where you kind of express your values, your abilities. What do you bring to the table? How long is your career potential? Meaning, like, how many novels do you have either worked on, outlined, finished, or in progress, or doing something else? The other thing is, what is it about that agent that sticks to your missions, morals, and purpose? Right. So how has that particular agent, and their books that they publish fit within your morals, your missions, your purposes? That's something to bring to the table too. Like, hey, I fit your missions. My stories have the same themes and understandings. I'm trying to bring people together, and I notice a lot of the works that you represent also have that as something that's important. It's important that people come together, right? Whatever the case may be, you have to look deeper than, hey, I'm just going to send out the same exact letter, minus the name change at the top, to as many people as possible. And the letter is going to be straightforward. Hey, I have a book that would be great for you. It's awesome, amazing, unique. It's about this, this, and this. And I think it would be a good fit for your agency. But you're not saying anything. There's no real research done. You're not understanding who you're messaging. And then it's like, but Thomas, that's a lot of work. Yes, because it's a job. This is a career. You got to put in work. You don't go to your 9 to 5, if you have one or not, walk in and within an hour say, hey, can I go home? I was asked to do a little bit of work, but also can I get the week's paycheck? I know it's Monday. Like, no, you have to put the time in. So think of your career the same way you think of the job that you don't love or like, and yet you put in the respect to show up, do the work as best you can, and you don't beg them for your paycheck every day. You wait for your paycheck, and you earn that paycheck. So do your research. Is this really a book? Agent says, think about whether your book idea is suited to be a novel. It might work better as a blog or an article. Okay. I'm sure you felt this way with other people coming to you with a story idea. They tell you it, and you realize it's a moment in a story, but not necessarily a story. It's an idea that's not fleshed out enough to be anything more than an idea. We do have that biased approach to our own works. Of course, it's a story. It's a great story. It's the best story. I wrote it, right? When it comes to novels, and your novel specifically, right? You should be aware of the book being completed when submitting it. And yes, you might be like, well, I have 70,000 words. It's completed. But you might realize a few things before submitting. So do this. What is the word count and the word count versus the genres you're writing within? How many chapters does it have? Okay. Does the story really need to be told over the course of all these words? Sometimes a story is fluffed out to make it more epic than it is. A good way around this is to write a story straightforward using the plot and subplots as your fuel, and then going back and adding some of your character and some of your flavor. But ultimately, did you edit your book or did you hire someone to edit your book? And if so, they might shrink your book down. And in doing so, the book might not be a full story. So that's something to keep in mind. And remember, you can delete all the other stuff and focus solely on the main plot and a select few subplots that add value to your overall story when you're initially writing. So you can write literally what the story should be without going into the insanity of it, without adding those extra little "this is for me" moments, right? That will help you trim down any unwanted word counts. However, you don't want to go the other way where you don't have a high enough word count for a standard novel. And you add extra subplots, fluff, and try to balloon up the narrative, and that just takes away from the story and kind of makes it all convoluted. What you could do to help a low count is re examine your story. Did you hit all 27 plot point beats? If not, you can go back and fill in the missing beats. You did hit the 27 plot beats? Okay. Now you have to make sure they are complete and filled with real urgency, conflict, and most importantly, are you challenging the characters and those plot beats? And those are things you could think about when you're writing your book to make sure that it's fulfilling the word count requirement. If it's not going over, if it's not going under, is it a complete story? Those 27 plot point beats, which we talk about in the outline series, which is available on the channel. It's a whole playlist dedicated to outlining and the structure of outlining. The thing is, you might be telling a story that's missing beats, that's missing important beats. You might not have an inciting incident. It could happen. You might not have a midpoint conflict. It could happen. You might not have the reactions to moments that are important. The reaction to the inciting incidents, the reaction to the change world, the reaction to the midpoint. You might not necessarily have those in your story. You might be missing things. You most likely have a chance to miss that if you're biased to your work. You might not be looking at it subjectively. And this is why you get friends to read it. Alpha readers are mostly other writers or readers or people like an English teacher or somebody that understands the writing and the process of writing and storytelling. They might not be great writers themselves. They don't have to be, but they need to understand structure. Another thing is getting an editor, or a consultant, like a narrative consultant. That's sort of like what I do. Like, people hire me, I read through the book and I make sure it's complete, etc., etc. Moving on. Your presence matters. That's right. Quote unquote from the agencies. Have an online presence. It doesn't have to be crazy. A Facebook page, a simple website with your bio, etc. But agents should be able to find you online. That's right. Yep. Not that you have to have 1 million followers, but an agent makes money off of you making money. If you have an avenue to make money, they will see you as a chance to make money for you. Because if you have the avenue and they're investing in you and putting you out there and they know you have an audience, there's more likely you're going to make money. Plus, it's harder to get you interviews, meetings, and other elements to expand your brand when your social media is almost mute. Look at social media as free advertisement, but of who you are and less about what book you are publishing this month. Because you could push a lot of people away if all it is buy my book, buy my book. Hey, my book's coming out. Here's my cover. Here's a cover reveal, another cover reveal. Here's another piece of my cover. You're not saying anything. And again, just like your books, you need to be saying something. Use social media to build an emotional connection with your audience as they watch your brand unfold through actions. On your website, however, you can give updates on your books, push calls. You could push calls to action and really lay on the buy me elements of your sales. Plus, they can see when you're doing book signings. Now, a website is literally the storefront. People are going there to buy into you. So you can be like, hey, here's my new book. By the way, here's the cover reveal. Here's this, here's that. Social media should be your journey, almost the behind the scenes of everything. I guess 3 quick examples would be, let's say you have a book reading, right? Or a book signing event. On social media, The best return on it is not to say, hey, I have a book signing today. Here's the information. The best thing to do for a book signing is leading up to that book signing. On social media, you're talking about preparing for a book signing, but you don't give dates. Basically, it's called being vague but informative. So they know you have book signings coming up, but they don't have enough information, which means if they're interested, they're going to ask you questions, which then you can answer those questions, especially in the comments as they talk to you. And then other people will see those questions that they probably have and they're nervous to ask, but then they see it and then they can read it. But if you just lay it all out, you're pushing people away because it's just data and it's not interesting. It's not intriguing. They're not seeing your adventure. Your website, though, however, can have all of that. But so the first thing would be if you have a book signing, one of those posts could just be, every week you talk about something that you're preparing for the book signing. So, I finally received the first order of boxes for my book signing coming up. I can't wait. I can't wait to give myself carpal tunnel syndrome. Right. Add a little humor if that's part of your brand, etc. Another thing is, let's say you have an interview coming up. You're going to be in a magazine or whatever. You go, you could do the before, during, and after. And by the way, you could do this with all adventures before, during, and after. It's either before the prep leading up to everything you're doing to get to that. The during is literally the day of the actual event, anything that has to do with what's going on at the event. The after is the day after, and it could be a year later, and you could still look back, and that's still considered after, right? Remembering an event. So if you have an interview coming up, you might want to do a before, which would be heading into studio. I love going into the city. I'm so grateful that I'm being interviewed for my new book coming out. The during, if you did a during post, maybe you take a photo with the person who's interviewing you, or you take a photo of the office or you in the office, and then you write, first time in in a magazine, an office, first time in a magazine's office. I never realized how many desks there would be. You'd think everyone would work from home, like us writers, especially when you're working on your next book or your current book, right? And then maybe after. By the way, posting the interview would be on your website. So once the interview comes out, that goes on your website. But the after might be when it comes out. You go, oh wow, I just got informed that the interview I did back in April, which might be 3 months earlier. So the interview I did back in April finally went live. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. Thank you again, Rolling Stones. So there's little things like that. That is adventure. But your website could literally, if I go to it, there's a news update. It goes, oh, my Rolling Stones interview is happening on the 3rd. I was told that it will be released on April 7th. My book is coming out. Next week, I'll do a cover reveal on my website. But you wouldn't put that on social media. That would be a news note. Right? Maybe you have a page that's dedicated to new works. Maybe you have a page that's dedicated to old works. Whatever the point is everything on your website, your homepage should lead people to other pages, because then they have to make emotional choices to go and move, right? But you're allowing it to become an interactive experience. So that's the value of having a website and the value of a social media. And if publishers are seeing this, or agents are seeing how intricate your business is, they'll see you understand what you're doing, which also helps them say, oh, this person could be ready for interviews. Just to kind of go back into your presence matters. The thing with your social media is you're using it to build an emotional connection, and that emotional connection leads them to want to go to your website, which becomes an emotional choice. That's a good thing in the world of marketing. And you want that. You want people to make choices. You want them to choose to go to something. You don't want to be told to do stuff, right? That's called pushing. And pushing does two things. It pushes an agenda and pushes people away. Now, they know that anytime By the way, if they go to your website and it shows all the updates and that's where you're educating your audience, you're saying this is where you could learn about me. Now they know anytime they want real details on what you're doing based on the adventure, they could go to your website and it'll show things. Now, of course, on your social media, you can post things like preparing for the next book signing or I'm grateful for the interview opportunity, like I said. These are prompts where it is vague but informative, and thus audiences uh, they have to go to your website for clarification. Like if they are interested in that interview, they go to your website. Right? If they're happy for you for getting the interview, be like, "Oh, you got an interview." They'll write on your social media, "When did you get an interview? Where? What was it for?" And now you're allowed to respond to that comment, and you could be vague again. You go, "Oh, I did a thing for Rolling Stones. I was really excited, and whoever the interviewer was, you could even tag them, was so grateful to me, so grateful, and made me feel at home." Um, and now they might be like, "Well, where can I get the Rolling Stones issue?" And you go, "Oh, actually, there's a direct link on my website." And then you could just literally put your website there in the comment because it led to that. All right. Now that you have built that relationship, right, and they have those prompts and they're learning to go to your website, now that they are on your website by choice, they will see all of the call to actions for opportunities to buy new and old books or see what's going on instead of it being a random post that pops up on their feed among hundreds of other posts that are not yours. There's a difference between you being a call to action post on social media that is just flying by them and they're just scrolling versus them choosing to go to your website to look for the information. Just something to think about. Final thoughts. Do your research. Understand the industry standards for books within your genre and do your part in building your business. These three elements of action will help your career as an author and establish your brand value as being A, interested in the industry, B, showing that you know how to run your business, and C, you understand the value of marketing a brand. And at the end of the day, there are two kinds of writers, the hobbyist and the business. Hobbyists love writing, but don't put in the career work that is needed to establish and build their business. They are happy writing on the side, and if and when something happens, great. More often than not, they play the numbers game as they hope for a quick return on their investment of action, i.e., sending a letter to 100 agents in a month. And my favorite, they expect the book to do all the work. Think of it this way. If your book was the selling point, then why don't interviewers read your book to the audience instead of asking the author questions? The reason is this. Books are a byproduct of the brand. The brand is you. When people buy into you as a person and connect with you emotionally, they then want to buy your books, which should also stand for, at least in part, your brand's missions, morals, and purpose. Basically, they should see things that are important to you in those books. Businesses, the business brain, take the career seriously in a way that is my throat is drying up. The business brain takes their career seriously, and the way they do that is they approach it like an investment into an opportunity. Okay, for example, they do more than write a book. They have a schedule set to give them time to do multiple things. They have their marketing, networking, and time to practice what's important in the industry. All right, clear that up. Marketing is about building. Marketing is designing a brand to build awareness, creates interest, and ultimately generates sales. Networking is building, cultivating relationships, and practicing is understanding your strengths and weaknesses and developing an understanding of your industry. Now, they write on business minds write on a schedule, meaning like they have a scheduled times to write. But most importantly, they also find ways to work within the industry. They are not trying to make a living off of their one book or books. They are trying to make a living in their field of interest. It's okay to write or do things that require your skill as a writer to help others, consult, and even work as a freelancer. Business brains find ways to make money within their industry. They're not reliant on a thing. Now imagine you worked at a supermarket and the only way you made money is if for every 100 items you ring up on the cash register. right? You wouldn't make money. Your paycheck would be, you'd be wanting everybody to come to your line, right? You'd have to work extra hard. But the reason you get paid what you get paid is because you're a cashier, you're someone who packs out, you're somebody that brings overage back into the aisles, you're somebody that's there to answer questions for your customers. You're there to potentially learn and understand the system so you can get promotions and become a manager or an assistant manager or a head of a department, whatever the case may be. All right. Here's something that's interesting, though. What makes the difference between a hobbyist and a business is the approach in which they take their chance. Deanna Raybourn, who is basically, she writes like historical fiction books. She wrote 14 books before her big break. Her husband and her sacrifice, her husband and her sacrificed their wants for their needs and made a deal that she will write and he will work. All these years later, now she affords her life with her career after her 14th book finally broke. That's about 14 years of pushing hard to make a name for herself, meeting people in the industry and establishing her brand in the industry while trying her hardest to get a book published. They made a deal. The husband paid for everything. She took care of the kids. If they, I don't remember if I think she had her first kid or no kid when she was first starting to write. But when I talked to her in person at she did like, I was hired to do like an event for people, and it was like a book signing thing. So, and she was the guest, and so I had to pick her up from the thing, and I had to take her around, make sure she was okay, right? So. One of the things that she was talking about was this adventure, and that's so interesting that the husband believed in her so much that he's like, you can't work. And she would say this. She's like, anytime I felt bad and I wanted to get a job, he'd be like, no, you're a writer, right? Let's get this book happening. This is your dream. I'm okay working. And then obviously the roles kind of like evened out once her book started becoming something, and but sometimes you got to find ways, right? So, okay. Now remember, what you do is not your job. Your job rewards you financially to do what you do passionately. That means that you have job responsibilities that lead you to opportunities that help you afford your life so you can choose to do what you love, not because you have to pay the bills, but because you choose to want to do what you do. What are the job responsibilities of running your career like a business? Before I go into this, let me explain. What you do, okay, is not your job. Like, you write, that's what you do. If you play guitar, that's what you do. But writing, playing a guitar, being a director, it doesn't matter. Writing is what you do. It does not reward you financially. And I'll prove it. Write a book, leave it on your table, and make sure that table is in the closet and the closet is closed. Then do not talk to anybody about your book. And remember, what you do is not your job. Your job rewards you financially to do what you do passionately. So if you wrote a book, you put it on the table, put that table in a closet, close that door, and didn't tell anyone about it, your book does nothing for your career. Now you're saying, but Thomas, I have to tell people about it. Yes. Yes, you do. And you need to show people the book, right? And people need to read the book, right? That's marketing and that's networking. That's you doing your job. The moment you start talking about your book, you're doing your job. The book has nothing to do with that. Because it could be any book. You could have 6 books, 1 book, 100 books. You still have to tell people. You still have to do your job. And if you do your job, you do your job responsibilities, those responsibilities will lead to the financial reward that allows you to keep writing. Okay? So what are your job responsibilities? I'll do this as quick as I can so we get to the conclusion, okay? There are 5 sides to your responsibilities, okay? The first one is 3 needs of success, okay? Success for me, I'll define as making a living within your field of interest. A living is not a lifestyle. A living is affording an average monthly overhead, okay? The three needs of success are network, market, practice. Networking is about the relationships you build. Marketing is about the relationships that remember you, including your audience and fans, and understanding who you are as a brand. And then practicing is understanding your strengths and weaknesses so you can have something to bring to the table, but more importantly, understand the industry you're in and how your strengths and weaknesses can benefit those you're around. Now, to create longevity to your career, right? Success is getting into the career. Longevity is, there are three needs of longevity. First, there's management, and that management is of your time, money, and the people around you. Then there's your entrepreneurial brain, basically finding solutions by thinking outside the box proactively. And then there's understanding your talent. Your talent literally is your value sets and what you bring to the table. So when you're asked to join a table, how do you elevate that table in a way which you can lead, follow, and or advise? All right. Leading is not taking over. Leading is inspiring others, creating momentum, initiating stuff, taking action. Following is not to do it blindly, but to elevate that table's missions, morals, and purposes. Basically, what do you add to the table in a way that can elevate the idea of that table? It's not about you, it's about the table and everyone at that table. And then advising is basically not to be the one that gets chosen, but the one that adds options to the table. We need solutions. Here's 1, 2, 3, maybe 10 options. They don't pick them. Great. That's fine. Except go back to following and leading. But ultimately, talent is your ability to lead, follow, and advise. Okay. And then 3 needs a purpose, which basically fuels your purpose. Okay. Is security, growth, and dream. This is all about organizing your money. I don't want to really go into this as deep as I can. It's financial, but ultimately security protects you, growth invests you for you, and dream rewards yourself. So security protects you so you can make calculated chances, because if you fail, you have that money protecting you. Growth is money you can invest, because everyone's like, I don't have money to invest. Well, now you have money that's allocated outside of your overhead. And then dream is the money you can reward yourself. I want to go on a vacation. Well, you can't afford it. Well, I have money in my dream account. You could afford it. All right. 8 assets of life. These are the assets you can invest in. Assets are what develops your wealth, passive income, and anything that is not an asset is a liability. It costs you money to afford. What are the 8 assets of life? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, intellectual properties, businesses, real estate, IOUs, which is ION2. Basically, you lend people money, you get money back plus interest. And then commodities. Commodities traditionally are like gold, coffee, wheat, but you are a commodity. Your writing skill, your voice, the things that matter to you makes you a commodity. And finally, the 5th side is treat your life like a business. To treat your life like a business, it means to say, hey, I'm going to save up enough funds to afford myself for 18 months so I can focus on my career. And that 18 months of overhead is covered so I don't have to work a job that has nothing to do with me. During this time, I'm going to get involved in the industry and learn how to do what I can do. I know I want to be a writer, but right now I just need to be around writers. I need to be around the industry and learn what I can and develop skills sets so I can get more involved in the tables. Treating your life like a business is utilizing the other sides. Treating your life like a business is organizing yourself and creating schedules, etc., etc. That's the quick version. Whew. I'm out of breath. I am out of breath. Okay, conclusion. The next video in this series will be the final 3 points of agents, literary agents giving advice for authors, after which we will begin exploring other aspects of the writing industry or the business of writing in general. Finally, we will talk about pitch decks for film, pitching to agents, marketing, and other elements of the business as this playlist continues forward. As I am your, it's question time. You're hosting a literary dinner party. Alive or dead, which 5 authors would you invite? You are hosting a literary dinner party. Alive or dead, which 5 authors would you invite? Let me know in the comments below. And by the way, if you want to learn a little bit more about improving your craft, insights in the industry, and hearing from fellow authors like yourself through our podcast, please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. I guess that's it. Is that it? Did we do the end thing? All right. And as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.